You know, a painting is really controversial when people are still yelling about it over 100 years later. And honestly, I get it. I mean, come on, it's literally a black square. If you ever wanted to roll your eyes at modern art, congratulations, you found the perfect target. And yet, somehow, this one black square became a milestone that changed how we think about painting altogether. So let's explore. So let's be real. When most people see the black square, their first thought isn't, wow, what a masterpiece. It's more like, wait, am I being pranked? This idea that Malevich was just trolling everyone. Like he was secretly laughing and thinking, let's see how many people I can fool with a big black square that has absolutely no meaning. Honestly, I'd find it hilarious if that were the real story, if Malevich had just pulled a full-on Banksy move and pranked the entire art world just for fun. You've heard it a million times. My kid could paint that. I could paint that. Honestly, my cat could paint that. It's the classic modern art eye roll. It's that unsettling sense that talent, training, and years of artistic practice suddenly don't count anymore. And then there's the theory that seems to leave people the most confused and maybe the most defensive. The thought that the black square could be the art world's version of the emperor's new clothes. No one really understands it, but everyone is too scared to admit it. Like there's a secret rule that if you question it, you failed the art test. So we all just nod and pretend it's absolutely genius while quietly hoping no one asks us to explain why. These are exactly the kind of ideas that make the black square so polarizing, because they tap into the really big questions about effort, about meaning, and about who gets to decide what counts as real art. But none of them explain why this painting actually changed everything. So let's look into it together. Picture it. Russia in 1915. The country is cracking under pressure. There's hunger, strikes, political chaos. The last Tsar clings to his power while different revolutionary groups dream of overthrowing the monarchy and starting over. Basically, tear it all down and start from scratch with a hammer and a few manifestos. And in the middle of all this unrest, the art world is having its own revolution. Artists want something raw, something that fits this wild, uncertain moment. They're ditching pretty portraits and perfectly lit landscapes and flirting with abstraction. Futurists are painting speed, cubists are breaking reality into shapes, and then Malevich walks in with a black square. What a mic drop that is. No faces, no story, no color, just black paint on white canvas. And when he exhibited the black square for the first time, he didn't just hang it politely on the wall. It was 1915, and the occasion was the last futurist exhibition of paintings 010 in Petrograd. Malevich placed the black square slightly angled and high up in the corner of the room. It's what Russians call the red or holy corner, where religious icons usually hang in traditional Orthodox homes. It wasn't just a black square, it was a declaration. The black square was the new icon. The reactions? Overwhelmingly negative. Critics were harsh, dismissing it as anti-art and a destruction of centuries of artistic tradition. For Malevich personally, the black square brought fame, but a few years later, also real danger. Let's just say black squares don't print well on posters about grain production. In 1930, Malevich was briefly arrested and lost most of his status and resources. He died in poverty in 1935, just as his art was being completely banned in the Soviet Union. Only decades later, his work, and especially the black square, was recognized as one of the most groundbreaking artistic gestures of the 20th century. What we are going to uncover is why one simple black shape didn't just break the rules of painting, it shattered them and sparked an entirely new way of thinking about art. Malevich's black square isn't about nothing, it's about starting over. For Malevich, this was a radical break from all previous art. No story, no figures, no illusion, just pure feeling and pure presence. He called it the 0 point of painting, a place where art could start again from scratch, unburdened by tradition, politics, or expectation. A place where all the old rules stopped and something completely new could begin. He wanted to strip down art to its absolute basics so viewers could have a very direct and personal reaction to it. No art history degree required. If you ever wanted to see a real-life Control-Alt-Delete for art, this is it. Total reset. It's from zero, in zero, that the true movement of being begins, as Malevich wrote himself. This wasn't just about minimalism or breaking with tradition. Malevich saw the black square almost like a spiritual icon. He wanted art to be about something deeper, a feeling, a moment, something beyond logic or language. For him, it was the start of something called suprematism, a movement focused on pure artistic feeling rather than representing the outside world. So yes, he basically Marie Kondoed the entire art world. If it didn't spark a feeling, out it went. It was both, a rejection of everything that came before and an invitation to total freedom, a blank space for the viewer to bring their own meaning. Malevich even called it the face of the new art, almost something like a spiritual or utopian symbol. So when you're standing in front of the black square, waiting for a 90s hidden 3D picture to pop out, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. It's not about uncovering some secret meaning that Malevich left behind. It's more about paying attention to what's happening in your own mind. Maybe you feel confused or frustrated or strangely free. Whatever it is, that response is part of what the painting is about. The real revolution isn't about what you see, but about what you bring to it and how you experience it. The black square is a blank space for your own reactions, your own questions, even your own doubts about art itself. And that's why this wasn't just another painting. It was a revolution in a frame. In a single stroke, Malevich didn't just change what art could look like, he changed what art could be. And 100 years later, the black square still splits dinner tables, lecture halls, and museum tours right down the middle. As Tatiana Tolstaya once put it in The New Yorker, Malevich drew an uncrossable line between old art and new art. And after that line was drawn, artists everywhere began to rethink what a painting could be. From Rothko's glowing color fields to the whole movement of minimalism, none of it would have happened without Malevich putting up that first unapologetic square. For many, the black square is now a kind of touchstone. Artists like Yves Klein, whose famous blue monochromes are direct descendants, or conceptual artists like Malevich or John Baldessari, who played with the idea that simple form could carry deep meaning. So next time you're standing in front of a painting that makes you think, I could do that, think about it again. Could you really, and would you have dared? The real magic of the black square isn't about what's on the canvas, it's about what happens in your own head. So if you ever wanted permission to trust your own reaction, this painting is your invitation. If there's another artwork that makes you just as baffled, annoyed, or curious as the black square, make sure to let me know in the comments so we can talk about it in the next video. I'll see you next time.